Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, boy, there's been a lot happened in the last 24 hours that we're going to talk about today. And it is the Bloomberg pile-on at the Nevada debate. And really what you and I were talking about just before we got started here is, money and purchasing truth, which you could argue Bloomberg has been trying to do.
He's done a pretty good job of spending money towards a truth of him as a leader, truth as him as a person that has been somebody that has contributed to the city and the nation. He's a person that sees the importance of somebody other than Trump from his perspective and from the Democratic perspective. And I'm guessing that, as you may have observed, he was a little bit surprised that just about every candidate came at him with some kind of flypaper, something to get to stick to him. So he was the flypaper, and they were throwing the insults and the judgments and the accusations at him to see which one would stick to him. And it seems like he struggled in communication, because that's what this show is about, is what do you say back? What do you say back when people say junky things about you? What do you say back and for it to work?
I have to say, Bill, I was shocked for someone that has had so much time not being in the trenches of the debates, opting out of the first several primary contests.
Yep.
And it took him a while to even qualify for the debate. I was really surprised that he wasn't better prepared.
Surprising, right? Surprising.
Very surprised. Disappointing to me.
Yeah, with all that money around you, you think you could buy a communication specialist or two. Tom, it might be helpful to know what to say back to the toughest questions.
Absolutely.
And I know I've mentioned this like several times on this, is that before I go into any mediation, any high conflict mediation, any divorce settlement, any of these things, Tom, I write down the worst things that person could say to the other person. Here's the worst things that could be said. And then I write back the compassionate response to the worst thing. So if any of the Bloomberg leadership gets a hold of this video and this audio here and really listens to it, it's, what do you say back when this person says this? And what rabbit hole do you not want to get caught into? So let's have some fun with this, because I'll just pretend I'm Bloomberg and you pretend you're all the other folks, and you get to launch whatever you want in my direction. And, Tom, I haven't really had very much time to prepare for this, but I have a great sense of understanding that my skill is enough, and awareness of communication might be helpful for Mike as he searches to get the highest land, and also to defeat the major marketing and branding expert as in Donald Trump is bringing to it. Okay, so
I like that, Bill, and I would like to just state for our listeners that we did this sort of intentionally, that you really admittedly had not watched the debate yesterday, and that's okay. We did that on purpose because we want to show how you can, in the moment, on the fly, be surprised by, or maybe just not know what statements are going to come at you if you're Mike
Know what's
Bloomberg.
coming at you.
I mean, I think
That's
you should
correct.
be able to predict what kind of statements would come at you if you're Mike Bloomberg, but
That's called
at least
preparation.
be prepared for the worst case scenario, like you were saying. Yeah. So I want to hear how you would do it as opposed to how others would. So, let's start. Let's not start with maybe the hardest one.
Oh, I
out
don't
of the
care.
bat.
Bring whatever you want. Bring whatever
All
you
right.
want.
All right. Well,
the name of the name of the candidate and what they said.
All right. So let's start. I'm gonna role play as Amy Klobuchar and saying, you know what, Mike Bloomberg, you are hiding behind your TV ads.
So you would like my TV ads to be clearer and present a more of an authentic view of me as a president and leader, and also talk about the mistakes that I've made along the way. Is that what you're requesting my TV ads do?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very important for the president to be honest. And in order for them to be honest, they've also got to present that they've done something in the world. And my TV ads were really focused on people getting to know me, both the good things about me, but also the things that didn't go so well, because that's a part of being a really strong leader.
Well, I think Amy Klobuchar wouldn't know what to say to that. She would sort of stumble just like me. Yeah.
What am I going to do with that? He just agreed and one up me compassionately and said he was willing to do vulnerability. So let's see if we can bring another one. See what else.
All right. Well, all right. That was pretty good. All right. We'll get something a little harder now. Okay. So now I'm going to be Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Okay. Saying that, Michael Bloomberg, women that you have made sign non-disclosure agreements are being muzzled. And this drip of stories of women saying they've been harassed and discriminated against is going to be a massive liability in the general election.
Oh, thank you, Senator Warren, for bringing that up. It's very important for women to get their need for being heard met, but it's also important for the need for privacy to be met. A lot of the times we do non-disclosure to meet the need for privacy. That's things that happen in-house that are not disclosed outside the house. It's a greater version of integrity because we want a written version of integrity. I disagree with the label or the diagnosis of women being muzzled. That's not what's true at all. What's true at all is what is a professional communication that takes place outside the business environment or outside the company versus inside the company. A non-disclosure is in the hopes that they would be truthful and bring honesty inside my organization, which I really kind of strived for. And it doesn't mean it's perfect. And I'm sure that there are stories of either me or, more importantly, other employees that worked did not follow that type of ethic that I carry, of making sure that women's needs are being heard, for their need for being heard is met, their need for respect is met. And it doesn't mean it's perfect, but it also is something that we've got to balance how privacy works inside the company versus outside the company.
That's very interesting, Bill. Wow. I like that.
Well, what is she going to do with it? She's going to go like
it's over her head. She wouldn't know what to do with it.
But what winds up happening is he looks presidential.
Right.
He's commanding leadership. Like, I've been down this road before. And yes, people say and do things junky inside my company too, because we are humans, right? And there are people that have done stuff under my leadership that I would not agree with from an ethics and integrity place. The reason why a non-disclosure is in place is to protect privacy inside the organization.
Well, I think that would have landed much better. He originally answered that question, I think, really poorly, saying none of those women accused me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like a joke I told. That trying to minimize it.
Oh, that's a great
and
catch.
Proportionalize it
yeah,
was not good. Yeah. But he he came back from that a little bit, though, and he said, I'm simply not going to end these agreements because they were made consensually, and they have every right to expect they will stay private. Now, that starts to maybe get to a little more empathy.
It inches towards it, but what he needed to go after is the word muzzle and the need for expression and the need for being heard, and he didn't go after that because he didn't take Bill Stierle's training on labels and diagnosis. So when a label and diagnosis is set in front, or a name, you go right after the name, and here it comes. You provide empathy for the name to disable it. You don't name call the person back. You don't say, well, or you don't minimize what it is. You call it for what it is this is the need for expression that many women have not had met fully in their lifetime. And it does take place in our society, and most certainly has taken place 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years, 15 years ago, when the culture of you have to just be quiet or otherwise you lose your job, that old mindset is something that we're trying to undo right now so that we can get back to truth.
Well, let me hit you with another one here
Go
that
ahead.
Senator Warren said, because this one, she went down the path of labeling and diagnosing Mike Bloomberg, and I'm interested to see how you would handle that.
Sure.
So I'm Elizabeth Warren. Mayor Bloomberg, you are an arrogant billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians.
In the past, the need for respect has not been met towards women. You may have heard, or there might be tapes of me saying derogatory phrases towards women. And you would like mutual respect to be not only here on the stage, but in the office of the president. That's why I choose not to speak and say things that are derogatory, and if I may have said them in the past, and if I were to look at a tape and see it coming out of my mouth, there's one thing for sure. I will not do what the president currently is doing right now, which is not meeting the need for truth, not owning integrity, and not falling on the sword of their own mistakes. That is not the leadership. And that's why we're all here on the stage, is to get him out of that seat, because we're all tired of it.
Wow. Great pivot. Can I clap for you? Seriously.
Crowd roars.
That was a great pivot to not only having empathy and having integrity, acknowledging that you might have said things in the past, but then pivoting to that's not how a president behaves, and that's how the current president behaves, and we have to get him out of there. That was brilliant.
Yes, because it's really the target. Thank you. But it's all built around mutual respect. And then in the past, what the small little sword that he fell on is, in the past, I have said things that have not been respectful. As if Elizabeth doesn't have a list, as if Bernie doesn't have a list, as if Joe doesn't have a list. They all got a list of things they said that were not respectful, aware, conscious. And it's not important whether you said it or not as important on whether you said it or not. How willing are you to be accountable and take the integrity sword, fall on it for a brief time, pull the sword back out, stick it back in the stone, and call it a day? Yeah, I did do that 25 years ago. You see me talking that way, and that was not my best self. It's clearly not the person on this stage right now. See, it's all about differentiation. It's not about who said what when. And
I like that, because I think that's the reality of humanity or human nature, Bill, is that, there are some people like the current occupant of the Oval Office who would say, I've always done this. I've always said this. And they will not admit that they changed their views on something, or that they made a mistake and now see things differently. Somehow they think it's a character flaw to be different today than you were in the past. And I don't actually think that's true at all. I think that you can learn from your past mistakes and move on. So I think admitting that came out of your mouth in the past, unlike the current president who would say, no, the Access Hollywood tape, I didn't say that. That's not really me or whatever. He's put out a bunch of smoke.
It's locker room talk.
Right.
See, that was Hillary's pivot. She has to know that he's going to minimize it. And it wasn't like that he and his people back then already started testing that it was locker room talk. And as soon as that came out of her mouth, her next sentence is, well, I guess we just don't want a 15-year-old in the White House then. Because a 15-year-old in the White House that's speaking like a locker room, the way I would say it is this. Now, she had a little trouble that she had her own 15-year-old in Bill as a husband.
Right.
So he could come back and pivot around and says, he could have said, well, what about your husband? I have him in the line right now. He is in a line right now. You're the one that's out of alignment. You're the one who's not changing your behavior.
Right. Not changing and not learning from it. You're not changing
and learning from it. Listen, we're just going to get more of the same of your big mouth in the government. Do we really want a big mouth that says things that they can't deliver and that will bankrupt the country just because we give them the keys, just like all your casinos and your airline, so just like the other business failures? Do we need a failure person here? Because you're kind of a failure person. I've never failed. Yes, you are. You should be fired right now from this stage. You have so many failures. It's just that the people on your side have no courage.
Whoa.
Now, she would have called them out early, no courage. She would now have a whole different book to write as a president.
Sure.
Because all she needed was 10% more to vote for her, 5% in certain states. It's like, so what? She would have burned people and given.
Well, that's what I say, because clearly she's attacking and labeling his most loyal supporters, saying they don't have courage, but they weren't going to vote for her anyway. So does that matter?
No, it doesn't matter at that point. At that point, it didn't matter.
I mean, she'd have to try to, once she became president, she'd have to try to reconcile because she's their president too, which she could have done.
Which you do the collaboration, cooperation narrative after you're elected, not before.
Right.
Say it back to me. You'll start feeling better.
Okay.
Collaboration, cooperation after you're elected.
Collaboration and cooperation after you're elected. Good point, Bill. Great lesson.
Yeah. Can't do it now. Can't do it now. It's not available.
All right. Now I'm going to be Bernie Sanders. Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Bloomberg, you have not shown any support for the African American community as evidenced by your stop and frisk policy as mayor of New York.
Safety. Safety has been one of the biggest challenges that we faced in New York at that time. We needed the need for safety met. The strategy that we took, stop and frisk, was a strategy in order to get safety and protection to take place. It's not the strongest choice I would make today. In fact, I think it's a terrible choice in hindsight. But at the time, we had to figure out how to deal with the safety issues on the street. Certain areas had more crime in it than other areas. So these were the initial strategies that were recommended and people to take. Did some of the police officers take it too far? Yes. Yes, they did. Was that under my watch? Yes, it was. But it doesn't mean that in this moment that the African American community can't see that I can make the changes, because we did make the changes. We did figure out how to do it in a better way and still get the need for safety met. Unlike our current president, who is interested in dividing us and not interested in providing any support to the African American community, any inclusion of our diverse nation. He's interested in dividing us. And you're right. In the past, that did not go well for us. And unlike our president, I know what it's like to change and make improvements in my leadership.
Wow, Bill, that's brilliant. You took this entirely away from a racially charged issue to all about safety and security. That's brilliant. And Bloomberg could do that too. He needs to learn how to do that.
He needs to learn how to do it. Safety as a function. Safety as a function. You know, I mean, this is hashtag Bloomberg right now, right? It's
Right.
it's like fundamental messages in communication. Breathe, pick the value you're going to fight for, set the value that you're fighting for in alignment with the question first, give empathy towards it. You're right. That is a safety issue. And it's also a trust issue. I could have worked trust in there. I didn't do that, but I could work trust in there. Yeah, you're right. There's a bunch of people on the fence that are wondering if they can trust me. But I'll let you know one thing. Trust really comes from learning and not doing the same thing again, unlike what we're seeing in the White House. You know, it's like, can you trust it? No. He's a one-trick pony. Loyalty. That's his trick. That's all Trump has, is ability to create loyalty and then marginalize people that are not loyal or get in a line with his propaganda. And I'll call Trump a propaganda on stage. It's like, what's the word propaganda? People will say. Yeah, propaganda is a false message to reinforce somebody that can't deliver what they're promising.
Whoa. Like Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
Like Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Like, see, we're fighting stuff that people believe it. Yeah. But the Democrats won't let them. It's like you're still missing. You're still believing the propaganda. It's like we're you know, until we, you know. Anyways, okay. So I got a lot of avenues to go here. All right, give me some more.
All right, here's another one. Let's get Mayor Pete Buttigieg into this one.
Yes.
So I'm now going to be Mayor Pete. Mayor Bloomberg, you are a billionaire who thinks that money ought to be the root of all power, and you're trying to buy this election by spending almost $400 million on advertising.
Wow. Fairness. Fairness has not been met in our election system. Once the Supreme Court voted for Citizens United, fairness for every vote counting as one vote went out the door. They voted in a way that allowed me as a billionaire to exercise my voice greater than the voice of others through money. It is something that is not supposed to be in this system, but it is. And I feel grateful for you calling it out because it needs to be reformed. The way we do money in politics has made all of the politicians have to spend more time raising money than legislating and advocating in Washington. Most politicians now have to spend the majority of their time raising money. They can't even write good laws. They have to actually depend on the lobbyists to write a law for them to vote on because there's no time for them because they're so busy raising money. Mayor Pete, this is exactly why this is a problem. And this is another reason why Trump is in office now. Now, because Trump is spending that money and all the people that are benefiting from his tax cuts are benefiting from it, we got to stop this. This is crazy that power can be paid for. It's got to end. I'm agreeing with him.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of saying, I'm different. I'm not different.
And I have every right to spend my money or whatever. Right. I mean, he's not making it about him being a billionaire. You're making it about
the system is
fairness. Yeah.
Fairness. It's a fairness narrative. It's not fair.
Well, and the other way that I thought he could have pivoted, and you didn't go there, but obviously I think there are many different
ways. Yes,
ways
I just picked
to
fairness.
go at this.
That's
you picked
right.
fairness, which is great, but I think there's also an integrity argument to be made. Would you agree that he is not having to curry to any special interests to get the money necessary to get elected. He doesn't have to owe anybody for it.
Well, let me go ahead and play that on both sides since you brought
Okay.
that one up, because that's a very good one to bring up. So, unlike our current president, who said the words out of his mouth, "I'm so rich, I don't have to listen to anybody and I can't be bought," he regrettably can be bought through how he grabs for respect at the expense of others, how he does loyalty instead of truth, how he has unequal fairness by commenting on the court system and the way those people voted. This is exactly the person that's opposite of it, because a rich person like him with no integrity is the problem that we're currently dealing with. Luckily, from my viewpoint, is it doesn't matter any of you that are on this stage here. I'm supporting all of you going forward, even if I'm not here. I think that my leadership with integrity, just by saying I am following what the values of America stands for, is way better than what this other billionaire is doing. And then we've got to also get money out of the politics and blah, 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 because it's not fair and da, 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 da. Okay. So I appreciate this, but Trump actually used that narrative, I can't be bought. And then he was bought with respect, recognition, praise, acknowledgement, self-worth.
Wow. So you really highlight all of his character flaws by pivoting on this. I can't be bought. Well, the president said he couldn't be bought because he has money, but in fact,
he has been bought.
Everybody uses different currency to buy him.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's Tom, you actually put it better than I did. They use different currency to buy him. That would have been the best pivot ever, because it's like, Mayor Peep, people are going to judge you by your age, but clearly you're one of the smartest guys up on this stage.
Oh boy, that'd be fantastic. He could have almost pulled a Ronald Reagan moment against Walter Mondale saying, you're incredibly intelligent, Mayor Pete, but I'm not going to use your age and inexperience against you.
Yeah.
All right. You remember that one?
Yeah, exactly.
But wow. Well, I'll tell you what really was, it was disappointing to me, because as an observer, as a citizen observer, seeing Mayor Bloomberg's advertising messages a lot in the last month, especially.
Yes.
I've been saying, wow, those ads are so well done. Here's a man who's setting the vision for America.
Yes.
That's what these ads have been doing. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. They're very strong, setting the vision, and also saying that vision that we currently are going is, has emptiness to it. The vision that they're going, he's not going after because he doesn't want to get in the same, barrel that everybody else is in. Bernie's stuck in the Trump's a liar barrel. Instead of Trump is getting his need for respect met at the expense of others. He's not in that. He doesn't. Many of the candidates have their own way they're talking about Trump that is not effective.
I agree. The liar, pants on fire offense by Democratic challengers against Trump is a losing argument.
It's a losing argument, right? So, Tom, just to even, think about this a little bit more, and kind of throwing our arms around a little bit, is just settling in that that if you're going to be the president, you may want to master communication so that you're able to both have empathy for the person that's the opposition, as well as direct and redirect towards the common vision that both people want. So the limits that the winning formula for the Republicans and the limitations that it has is that they've scapegoated poor people and immigrants, and that narrative that they've put themselves in, and then played the race card on top of it, have brought us into a place to expose a part of our nation that's really hard to wrestle with. Because if we're holding to the primary values of the United States, it's an inclusionary mindset. It is not an exclusionary mindset. You cannot meet your needs. If you look at the Constitution, the idea in the Bill of Rights is not meeting your needs at the expense of others is what keeps the mob from running the nation. But now the problem we have is it's not keeping the corporations from running the nation.
It's a different mob.
It's a different mob. Now, many of them are having their own ethics and integrity challenges right now. And some of them are coming back to the center of the table saying, we have to upgrade our game because we've got our own version of slash and burn with our clients and customers and our nation that we're exercising on the behalf of the 2,000 shareholders we have. We're going to throw the system under the bus because of those folks, because we want another $5 return on their investment. No, we're not doing that. So this is a thing that's really, really unsettling, is that it's kind of the gift of Trump, which is, being the wrecking ball that says, are you going to stand for your values or not? And oh, by the way, you've elected somebody that's not standing for your values. How bad you want this, as a nation? How bad you want this? And are you going to have integrity and criminality and have those separate and have this be just as important as this?
Boy, I'll tell you, this discussion and this episode for our listeners, I think, really highlights how not only did Mayor Bloomberg fail at this first debate, he was unprepared and didn't do himself any favors coming off of what I think is a very successful campaign strategy thus far,
right,
to focus on Super Tuesday, set the vision for America, not sort of get caught up in this hamster wheel of, competing in early contests and debating. And, that was unfortunate. But at the same time, the 5 other Democratic candidates missed huge opportunities. They just tried to get sound bites attacking him, and none of them actually pivoted to set their own vision.
No, they missed the opportunity. They came in and they're trying to take him out, at the knees and trying to go after the weak spots and stuff like that, instead of just staying above the fray and saying, yes, the need for integrity is, and then here's what fairness looks like to me. Here's what justice looks like to me. Here is the way forward here. And treat them like another person on the stage. It's sort of like, I know this thing jumped in my head. It's sort of like having Marshawn Lynch join the Seattle Seahawks to be the starting running back in a couple playoff games. It's like the guy has been out of football for a little while, and he's not going to run over everybody like he used to.
Right.
And now Bloomberg comes in flat-footed, same as Marshawn Lynch, and they go like, really? They just tackled him at the line of scrimmage. That's all you got? You didn't even do any preparation to get ready for this? Didn't you do any hours of coaching? Didn't you have anybody that had some skill in conflict talk to you? Sheesh.
What's amazing is the candidate that actually gets it and gets some skill, some perspective, at communication with all this would would absolutely rule these debates and fundamentally change the remainder of the campaign, but none of them are doing it, then it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think we may get to a convention this summer where there is no candidate who has met the delegate threshold to just be the obvious winner.
That's right. That's right. It's there is a little bit more that each of the candidates need to do instead of just waiting for people to drop out. It's just become the front leader by 20 points. Just become the front leader by 20 points. Now, Bernie's in a better position, especially after this debate, the way you talked about it, because like you said, I haven't seen the debate, right? So I'm going to go back and watch and say, oh yeah, but by the way, here's what Pete could have said after he said that sentence. Here's what Elizabeth Warren needed to frame it so that she started looking presidential instead of looking academic and adversarial, because all of them are getting stuck in the criticism box they don't belong in, defensive box, the contempt box. They don't belong in there. They don't belong in those boxes, but they are going to put themselves in it.
And Bernie is trying to appear like a front runner, which is an unusual position for him to be in. The reality is you've got now 3 moderate candidates who are going to be jockeying for that voting block, which is decidedly larger than Bernie's base of, very left progressive support. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I think, we may for the first time in almost half a century in this country get to the point where the winner of the Iowa caucus or the winner of the New Hampshire primary neither of them ends up being the nominee, which would actually defy conventional wisdom. There's been some written about that. And I think anybody can. I mean, they're probably, except Biden, who I think at this point is too damaged to come back.
Yeah. So the next time that during our next episode, I'd like to really talk about, how do we allow truth to bubble up, and how do we allow strong leadership to bubble up from a place of compassion, and we're going to disagree on all kinds of different strategies to get there, but the problem is that we're still not talking about truth enough. So the truth is that the economic policies that have been put forth by the Republicans have not helped us. And that's the thing that we've got to do some better honesty. And they're still thinking that they're still running on that horse that's limping, and it's really, really disheartening. So
is that more of a general election campaign message, or is that still
start seeding it? They got to start seeding it. You got to start seeding the belief and the structure of what they're not doing, because that's the vision out. It's not and Barack Obama did this great, by the way. He talked about what they weren't doing early, and then Barack Obama pivoted and pivoted and pivoted all the way through, so everybody else was following him. McCain and the Republicans were flat-footed when he pivoted from Iraq back to Afghanistan. This is really where the war is and where it was. And everybody's going like, oh yeah, we thought that too. It's like, no, you didn't.
Too late.
Too late. No. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
fantastic. Okay,
all right,
Bill.
buddy. More to come, okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.